Welcome to CEO Corner. My name is Sarah McGrath, partner in 360 Search Recruitment Services across Ireland and the UK. And today we welcome Joanie Hughes, CEO of FNZ EU, an investment firm that partners with life and wealth providers by combining technology, infrastructure, and investment options in a single state-of-the-art platform. Prior to FNZ, Joanie held senior appointments in Bank of Ireland, including Managing Director of the Insurance Services, and prior to this, Chief Underwriting Officer at Aviva. Joanie, a Kilkenny native with 3 wonderful children, received life-changing news about her health in 2022. She had cancer and needed treatment while at the peak of her career. Joanie's story is that of determination and courage. She's a phenomenally inspiring woman, and I'm thrilled that she's joining us today to share her story. Welcome to CEO Corner, Joanie.
Thank you, Sarah.
So we'll start with understanding your story. You have a unique story. You are one of 7 from a farming family in Kilkenny. All of your family are entrepreneurs. I'm keen to understand what your upbringing was like and what it was like growing up in a household with such an ambitious family.
It was a fab upbringing. I absolutely loved it. The youngest of 7, 10 years between the 7 of us, so we're all very close and really consequentially quite competitive all the way through our early and older years. My dad was a farmer, passionate about horses, and great that passion translated into his business as well. And I think that competition from an early age in horses and ponies probably formed that competitive edge for us all. But certainly if you look at when we were growing up, there was always hard work but fun kind of thrown into how we operated on a day-to-day basis. You never got out of bed after 8, you never turned on the TV till 6, and I remember every Christmas morning we'd get up, wait for Santa or open up the presents after our earlier years, and we all went out to muck out the stables and get on with what needed to be done, because you never had a break when it came to a farm and the responsibilities you had. But we had fun in doing it, and my dad, as I said, farm all his life. My mum worked in Bank of Ireland, in the bank, which was at the time quite a notable job, but she had to give up when she got married, which is a real, I suppose, evidence of the progress we've made in Ireland since Mum got married, and I'm sitting here today, and certainly was kind of bittersweet for me when I joined Bank of Ireland. Mum had just passed away kind of less than a year, but it was lovely and a great tribute to see that we've gone full circle, and that I could, when I was married with children, join Bank of Ireland and have a great period in my career during that time.
And did the horses trickle down? Do you have a love of horses yourself?
I'm probably the only city girl, and consequentially don't ride. My kids would have a little bit, but still have the same love of horses. And if you look at all my siblings, I think each and every one of my nieces and nephews have competed at quite a high level, as well as one of my sisters is Olympian in horses, and it has driven us and probably made us stick together quite a bit, because while we might not compete, we assess and support the many different levels of active competition that happens throughout the family.
That's great. I love it. Great story. So you're with FNZ for nearly 4 years, and you've been in the CEO role for the last 10 months. What changed for you moving, working with your peers and your colleagues and changing into the CEO role?
Probably a couple of things. For me, the start of this year was the first time I went back to the office in nearly 4 years, which was mad, really. But, it was a real new introduction into hybrid working and trying to get a balance between in the office, meeting everybody, but also having the flexibility to be there for my family when I need to as well. So that was new and great, and I absolutely love the mix of office and home. Secondly, for me, I suppose the big change was doing more leading and co-creating than actually doing, and making sure that I was very clear in an aligned strategy with the board, with the team, and a plan and how we might execute it. And pivoting from executing the plan to, I suppose, networking, engaging with my team, with my colleagues across Europe, and with the broader group to understand how we can navigate, align and work together to deliver the outcomes that we needed. So that for me was a big step change, but I really enjoy it. And probably the one thing that it also allowed me do is have that macro view. So leveraging every part of my experience over the career to actually utilize the knowledge to help inform decision making and inform strategy and inform how we might look to either define a solution to a problem or identify an opportunity.
Yeah. Do you know, I actually resonate with what you're saying about when you're moving through your career and you're moving to a senior appointment where you're nearly in an oversight role. You're a CEO, you're a problem solver. You're in an oversight role. You're not necessarily the action person. There's a delegation that happens, and I think it's quite I resonate with that myself. But I hear it from other CEOs when especially when you move up to a CEO role within the same company. That transition of I'll do it myself, like reskilling yourself to actually hand it away, and kind of oversee it. So I definitely resonate with that one. Yeah. What do you have for yourself? What aspirations do you have for yourself to continuously learn and continuously develop? I know you're an ambitious lady, so I know you have something.
Well, I think my ambitions have never really changed. If I look from the very start of my career, I never set out to be X or to be Y or to be a CEO or a lead. I kind of set out to challenge myself and learn and continuously learn and develop, and to make an impact. And that is what I think I've always done in each and every step of my career. So that aspiration hasn't changed. Probably what has is probably at this point saying, actually, what can I do then to impact and help? So if I look at the former me 20 years ago, what would and could I do now to make me get through my journey quicker? And hopefully I'm having that impact in doing that within my team and broader field over the course of my future career, and that I still have the same challenge and learning and development as I look forward into the rest of my career ahead of me.
Yeah, I think you're always going to seek out something to push yourself.
Absolutely. Do you know, that's for me the motivation, actually. If I look at the beginning of this year, I was questioning whether or not I'd have the energy after being out sick last year for a period, whether or not I'd have the energy to go full tilt into the CEO role. And actually the motivation, the challenge, I was ready to work 10 days a week if I needed to. And that's amazing what motivation can do. Yeah. So, you have to hopefully positively inspire others to be as motivated as you are. So it's the only way that you'll actually succeed as a team together.
As well, I think sometimes the regret of not doing it, the fear of, I don't want to live my life and live in a world where I wish I did that. Sometimes I find that can spur me on for things when I'm, damn, I have this idea, I have to implement it now. But I think trying to find energy, sometimes that's a fear. Definitely see that as a fear. That's a real self-doubt thing nearly, when you're wondering.
And it was a real fear for me, but amazing what positive mental attitude and motivation does. And actually confidence, kind of breaking through that fear makes it all the better when you achieve it.
Yeah, I agree. And what challenges do you face in your role as CEO? Like what is it feels like to you a challenge?
I suppose if you look at my current business in FNZ, you look at the markets at the moment, the markets change, the volatility in markets, our commercial model is broadly attached to market volatility. So as markets move, our income will change and downwards. If the markets move down, that for me is a challenge, but very much outside of my control. So one that I don't, think about or consider, other than trying to understand what levers you might address in that instance. But I think more material challenges is one in FNZ Europe. We operate in 12 countries with a high growth trajectory, lots of new business coming in, and very complex cultural differences, regulatory differences, customer differences that we need to navigate in order to succeed and grow. And I think if I look at it, the only way that we can overcome that challenge is to address what is the more real challenge that I can influence, which is the team, and integrating, a myriad of different teams with different matrix oversight and support across the broader group in different countries. That has been a great challenge, but a challenge that I think we've really managed to crack in the nearly 10 months that I've been in role, and lovely to see.
Yeah, it's a positive outcome. It's nice to see the result.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, lots of learning in it too, because you can set out a plan, but if you don't have buy-in and alignment with everybody in the plan, and if you don't listen, I have learned from my Aviva days when we operated on a European basis, you might think you know the answer across different countries, but actually it's the individual leaders from each of those countries that have insights that you'll never have. So listening, be willing to adapt and adjust in the plan to get that alignment and buy-in to make it the best it can be has really been, I think, a big learning and a positive outcome as a result.
Good, well done.
Thank you.
So in 2022, early 2022, you received some life-changing news about your health. I know you mentioned being sick last year, that you had a cancer diagnosis and immediately started chemo. Can you talk us through that and just describe how that was for you?
Yeah, I'll never forget the day. It was a Friday. Myself and my husband went into... my gut had kind of known that it wasn't going to be great news, but got the diagnosis from the doctor, and look, first reaction was absolute shock. I was very measured, very controlled, clearly still in shock. And I remember in good old Irish fashion going for a good Irish breakfast afterwards to allow us to digest and understand what we're going through. We didn't know what else to do. And then coming back to my home office, and John went back to work, and I sat down to call all my siblings and my friends, my best friends, to say I had cancer, which, still feels surreal at this time, because it's something you never think will happen to you. And funnily enough, most of the people that I spoke to were more emotional than I was at the time. But then I think that translated quite quickly into how the hell was I going to tell my kids? Because my biggest focus at then and throughout all of the journey was, how is this going to impact the kids this summer, their year of 2022? And got through that, and you know what, kids are incredibly resilient. They were absolutely amazing. And then I suppose I started lamenting my career. I was absolutely sure my career was done. Nobody would want to hire somebody who had cancer, which, in retrospect was mad, but absolutely was real in my feeling at that particular time. And then moving on to the journey that was, the treatment plan, from surgery to chemo to radiotherapy and targeted therapy right up till the middle of this year. It was, interestingly, chemo was the most difficult part of the journey for sure. And the first chemo, probably emotionally, was the most difficult. But as I got through each consecutive treatment, I got much stronger emotionally. I kind of became stronger and figured out, okay, if I can get through, what were the issues and how did I feel the first time, so that I could start making a plan for my second one and a third and the fourth. And the reality is all my plans didn't really make much of a difference, but it felt like I'd control. It felt that, and I was physically getting weaker, but emotionally getting stronger. And that really helped me personally to get through it.
Wow.
That and the amazing, amazing community I have around me, like my family, my siblings, my friends, and the broader community. It took an army, and I was so lucky to have so many fabulous people to support me all the way.
Yeah. Wow, like it's just I can't imagine what that time was like for you, especially when there's a thought in your mind that I have to tell my children. You know, that's a different level. You know, of it's hard to fathom. Like, what were the range of emotions that you experienced?
Oh, funny. You know, I probably didn't cry as much as I thought I would. Strangely enough, because there was a couple of moments that definitely thinking through how my kids were going to experience it. And even I was thinking about this over the last week, and a tear came to my eye, just even thinking about it. But also there was personal moments in after my first chemo, which I'd said was probably the most difficult emotionally. I remember thinking, was I going to lose my hair?
Yeah.
You know, was I going to get fat, thin? I had no expectations of what was going to happen, and you just really needed to work through it. So, and then I kind of came out of chemo stronger, probably more resilient for life, and funnily enough, more confident. So as much as I was going into radiotherapy and targeted therapy for a whole 6 months thereafter, felt like I could rule the world. If I could do that, I could kind of do anything.
I think you can. I think you can. I know you said after the first chemo session, that's when your confidence started to grow. What was that? Was that hope? Was it, you know, belief in yourself? Like, where did that come from?
It was a plan. I probably, like, my medical team were absolutely incredible too, but I think I really annoyed them at the very start, because I kept on saying, can you give me A, B, C, D and E please? And in particular about E, and they'd go, stand back, let's do the first step, and then after the first step we'll see what the second step is, which was for me quite difficult to get my hands around, or get my head around even. And consequentially, after the first one, I had track record. I understood what was happening, and I could understand by day 3 I started to feel unwell. By day 7 I started to feel better. So I started to work with a plan, and I refined it step by step. So it's not dissimilar to work in, you know, figuring out how you do things and how you can do things better going forward. And as I said, it may not have always helped me physically, because every treatment you did feel a little bit different, but it did absolutely allow me to take a little bit of that control back, that I was starting to manage it rather than it starting to take me.
Yeah, good. And thankfully it's a positive ending, you know, a positive outcome. How did you change personally in this? How did you have to change even, you know, to get through it?
Yeah, and I probably don't know if definitely my mindset changed in a positive way. I don't know if I changed, but I had to dig deep into some of the innate, you know, elements that drive me from day to day. If you look at my positivity, I am the most positive person you'll ever meet. And you know, and my team sometimes will go, Joanie, Rome wasn't built in the day, will we pull back please? Which I've learned to be a little bit more self-aware and get the balance through my team supporting me. But it was hard, you know, but I had to physically try to make myself positive, which is something I never had to do before. And, you know, when you're down, you can stay down. And sometimes it's okay to stay down for a day or two. You're allowed to feel sorry for yourself. But I had to kick myself into trying to mobilize myself into actually the great things. And I gave myself goals throughout the whole period too. I had a great friend's wedding, the couple I've known for nearly 30 years. that was a milestone that I needed to be well for, prepare for, and look forward to. And a couple of horse shows and different things that were my kind of 4 key markers over the course of my 18 weeks during chemo that really kept me going as well. And great family and friends to support me.
Wow. I feel like there could have even been a to-do list in there somewhere.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Just getting to know you, Joanie, one of the things that has stood out to me during our conversations is when you talked about your interview process for the role that you're in now as CEO. And I think I nearly fell over when you told me it was you interviewed 6 weeks after finishing your chemotherapy. You know, it's just a testament again to your mindset. You know, what were you thinking doing this?
Yeah, and I don't know, I suppose as I went on in my treatment, Lisa Feely, who is the ex-CEO, was fabulous support. And over the course of each of the treatments, I kind of started realising, you know, initially saying no, there's no opportunity, then going, maybe there is. And with the right support and confidence, coming into my last 6th treatment went, I'm going for this.
Wow.
And having the goal, and I actually was 3 weeks after my last chemo session, little under 3 weeks because it was running to the edge.
Wow.
But it was, you know, I probably wasn't 100% at the time, but I prepared and I became more myself than ever. And I've never had more confidence because again, I can beat the journey I'd just been on and the journey that was still ahead of me. It kind of gave me more belief in my ability, which I actually think for my kids and all of my colleagues that I've been working with, confidence is a big part of your ability to execute. You know, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably right. Yeah,
and your resilience now at this stage, you know, having, as you said, having gone through what you've been through and what you've had to overcome, you know, and also building your career and learning along the way, it's just brought you to that moment of feeling unstoppable. You know, it's fantastic. And I saw a LinkedIn post that you shared only 5 months ago, only 5 months ago. And the post referred to that the day you were writing the post was an excellent day for you because you were officially cancer-free, which is just, you know, I'm so happy for you to be able to share that post. And you said you gained some new perspectives. Can you share those with us?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I'll remember it was Good Friday was the last day I'd finished my treatment and I was officially cancer-free. I'd targeted treatment, therapy still up until earlier this year. And I'd been thinking about my perspectives over the whole journey. Probably won't mention them all, I'm sure I'll remember them all, but for a couple of things. One, you know, what can be small to some people can be big to others. Because, you know, just because I felt one way or another way during my treatment doesn't mean that that's going to correspond in the same view emotionally or physically for others. Secondly, for me, it's really about, and it was new and I suppose a revelation to me, is around positive mindset and negative mindset. So everything you do takes energy. And you have a finite energy reserve. So whenever you're prioritizing things, I've now, and this is personally throughout my journey last year, is make sure that when you're doing things that take energy, that you have a net positive energy flow. So that if you're doing something that gives you more energy back than you actually give. And for example, my son, Peter, who's now 11, was 10 at the time, I wanted to bring him down to the beach with 3 of his friends. My family were going, are you absolutely crazy? It was a week after my 3rd session. And my view was, well, I'll definitely get more back than I give. And I think in life in general, I've taken that with me, that if you don't do that, you'll burn yourself out. If you don't do that, you'll fall over. And it's only when your energy reserves are really that finite that you get to focus on it. Third thing for me is that I suppose when you think about it, it takes an army to achieve anything. That if you don't have a network that you can, that you can get support from, it becomes very, very challenging. And for me, that's, that's something that I've benefited from massively. And don't be afraid to ask or support, or to close down when you don't have the space to open up to everybody, because that certainly was a big part of what I went through.
Yeah, I think some of that requires self-awareness and listening to your body. I think some people are that they don't listen, and they, as you say, run on no energy and burn out.
And like that for me, even again, as I take it into the beginning of this year, when I was afraid I wouldn't have enough energy, it's making sure that you make conscious decisions and prioritize. Ruthless prioritization is what I always say in work, but as much as that is now not just work, but you have to prioritize yourself, you have to prioritize your own health, and you actually have more control in your work-life balance than you think you ever did. When you actually take that control back and make some decisions.
That's stellar advice for sure. You are, without a shadow of a doubt, the epitome of success in the face of adversity. For those that really are trying to build a career and want to get to the top, how can we strive for more and then stay there when we get there?
I don't know if I'm the epitome of success now, far from it. But I think if I look at all the way through my career, I felt every job I had felt like it was, I suppose all the rest of my siblings are entrepreneurs, they have their own business. I've always treated every job as if it's my own business. So, if I'm spending money, I'm frugal. I'm spending what I think is the right, and I would spend as if it was coming out of my own pocket. If I'm making commitments, you don't have to make commitments that actually are unachievable, but if you do everything you can to deliver on those commitments. And don't let, you mentioned regret earlier, don't be in a situation where you can look back at a pivotal point in your career to say, geez, if only I did, or if only I could have. Give 110% to the moments that matter. And then finally, for me, it's put your hands up for stuff that aren't necessarily within your role or within your remit. It's actually be curious, seek out the interesting, sometimes very difficult challenges, and volunteer, even if it's outside of your comfort zone, because they're the things, one, that you get noticed for, but two, that give you the most growth and development. And they kind of form part of the puzzles of the skills and capability that eventually bring you to move up to that next step in your career.
Yeah, excellent. I think we need to write that down. We can learn from that. And just before we wrap up, unfortunately, I think we all know friends, family, colleagues that are going through their own health issues or physical health, mental health, struggles. Do you have some advice for those and for people supporting them?
Yeah, so certainly, if I look at my husband, he was amazing throughout the whole time, and I actually think the journey for him was probably more difficult than the journey for me, because, I was talking about my control, he had no control, and he's a fixer, but he couldn't fix me, so he had to be there to support me. And I think for him and others, for me, it's okay to say, yeah, it's shit, isn't it? As opposed to always having the positive angle. There's a time where all you want is somebody to give you a hug and be there beside you, but not necessarily give you the answer as you progress. So that certainly is something that I've learned and resonated, as I've already have friends that are unfortunately going through a similar journey this year that I would have had last year. And then secondly, if you're going through it yourself, again, it's okay to say it's shit and wallow for, and feel sorry for yourself, but it's trying to get that gumption, which isn't always easy, to set that goal, to saying, actually, what can be good in the week ahead and the month ahead that I can look forward to, because it's those nuggets that give you that kind of I suppose, goal to be able to work through it and appreciate that there is something ahead.
Yeah.
And the team, the network, surround yourself and the people that you love, and for the people that, that you have enough space for, that you may not want, you may love people, but they may not necessarily there may be too many people. So define, everybody else understand if you decide that, you have 20 fabulous people, but you've only room for 5 at the moment.
Yeah.
That's, you have to be a little bit selfish, and you have to define what works for you, and everybody else will roll in behind you.
Yeah, great, thank you. So Joanie, to wrap up, we have 3 fun questions. First one, if you were stuck on a desert island, 3 items would you bring?
3 items. I thought about this long and hard. I'd bring a weekend bag to enjoy this piece of the island all on my own. I'd bring a yacht with a navigation appropriate to bring me home, and a good book to read it on the way home.
You just need time out then.
Absolutely. A weekend, no longer.
Time out.
I think I'd value a weekend on a lovely, secluded, sunny island, I'm assuming. But beyond that, I'm still a people person, so I'd want to go home pretty soon.
Okay, that's fine. And what was the last book or podcast that you read or listened to?
I listen to David McWilliams' podcasts all the time, and I think he's fabulous. So I think Swedenomics, or the fundamentals of the Swedish economics, was the last one I listened to. But it's for me, I wouldn't be an expert in economics, but he translates what is complex issues into really simple, easy listening, learning that I find quite insightful.
Yeah, okay, I need that. I need to listen to that one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And if you were hosting a dinner party, what 3 guests would you invite?
I'm probably going to break the rules here, because I'm come from a big family. I'm coming from a farming background. I've never had a dinner party in my life. I tend to, if I do, I have a gathering. It tends to be the masses. There's too many of you, the 7 and then 8. There is, absolutely, that's it.
Way too many.
And whenever I cook at home in Kilkenny, we have a big dining room table, and I've only obviously 5 in my family, 3 kids and my husband and myself, and there's always about 15 people sitting around the table. So I would instead say that there's 3 groups, which is my family. Even my kids are, oldest is 16 and 14 and 11. They're great company around any dinner table. My siblings and my best friends. They'd have to be my best 3.
It's actually a really nice gesture. Yeah, you can make that happen now. They're going to hold you accountable.
I do quite frequently, that's the thing.
Yeah, they're going to hold you accountable. They're like, when's the next date?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. Really enjoyed it. Okay.